Welcome to the Unpacking It live podcast presented by Medi-Share. I'm Bryce Johnson. For the next hour, we will unpack sports, faith, and life with you and the Unpacking It community of sports fans. Happy Easter. Apparently, a lot of people have today off. I show up to the office that I have space in and nobody was working. I set off the alarm. So I'm here. I'm here alone today. So we're excited though. Luke's here. Henry's here. The first weekend in the NBA for the playoffs began and it was fun. Jordan Spieth won down in Hilton Head. The NFL draft is right around the corner. Some interesting storylines in the NFL. Voluntary workouts are starting up. We've got Unpack This about that. Also, we will do Tap Drill. The latest match has been released. USFL started over the weekend. There is a broadcaster kind of debuting tonight. He's making his return to the NBA. So I've got some thoughts on that. And we'll have a blast throughout this kind of special, somewhat holiday edition of the Unpacking It live podcast. So thanks to everyone listening on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. Let us know you're here. You can leave your comments wherever you're watching. We see them all come through. Henry is monitoring the chat, talking to you on the chat. So get him going a little bit and want to hear your kind of reactions throughout the show. Also, you can let us know what you're convinced of today. Always love hearing that as well. We are brought to you by Medi-Share. My wife and I, we have been thankful to be Medi-Share members for over 5 years. Medi-Share has provided us with an affordable and effective way to pay for healthcare. Medi-Share is an innovative healthcare solution for Christians looking to save money without sacrificing on quality. Medi-Share is a biblical, affordable alternative to health insurance. And you can find out more information on medishare.com/unpackingit. Figure out if it's the right fit for your family, get a quote, check out how it's set up. And you can do that on medishare.com/unpackingit. All right, Luke, happy Easter to you. Happy start to the NBA playoffs. I know a little tough for you and your Dallas Mavs. We'll get your thoughts on that today as well. But how was Easter weekend?
Easter weekend was really awesome. It was the second Easter my wife and I have been married for. So that was really special. And we had an awesome day making some stir fry with some of our neighbors. So
the Easter traditional meal.
That's right. So one of our neighbors, good buddy of mine is named Mason. He is known for his stir fry on like this black top griddle grill.
A wok?
Do what?
Is it a wok? W-O-K?
No, I'm drawing a blank on the name. But okay. He is a professional on this thing and makes tremendous stir fry. So that's what we were doing yesterday, and it was a really good time. Got a little sunburned. You know, it's we're entering into the time of the year where if I'm outside for more than 15 minutes, I get that beautiful red glow on my skin. So gotta be aware. But what I wanted to bring up, and I would love to know your thoughts on this, especially now that you are a father of two and you are the only man in your house. And it is
Thanks for reminding me. No, it's great.
It's Easter clothing. So one, how was your Easter? But Easter clothing is a fascinating topic and observation for me because every Easter, people show up to church with clothes they don't wear any other day of the year. And I would love to know how you navigate this as you have two young girls, a wife. So how did that go?
Yeah, so that's a wonderful question. And it is hilarious how important the Easter dress is and the Easter attire is. I should say, because a lot of people, women wear Easter dresses, and then those of us, we have to try to fit in somehow. So the strategy for me is I normally get a new shirt for Easter because so I never shop. I mean, I never shop. I rarely get new clothes other than my birthday, Christmas,
Is it because
and
Jody shops
Easter.
for you, or you just never get new clothes?
Very rarely. I mean, I'm wearing. I mean, you would be saddened by how old my clothes are. I, I mean, I still wear some of my high school clothes, college clothes. I'm still wearing. I'm grinding it out. I have a buddy who gives me free clothes, so that helps as well. But anyway, for Easter, you got to look sharp, right? Now, we know that Easter has nothing to do with eggs, bunnies, or clothes.
Yeah.
I guess it does have something to do with it, even though it shouldn't. But all those
Which is
things
a whole
factor
nother
in.
conversation, which
That
is
is also,
fascinating.
which is also fascinating now as a dad of two young daughters too,
Yeah.
to navigate all of that. But it's not about the outer garments. However, it's nice to show up feeling good at church with a new shirt. The problem for me, it was the last minute. We ordered something for me to wear, and it didn't show up until a couple days before. Not a quick enough turnaround time to get it ironed. So I wore a brand new shirt that was wrinkled. And so I'm showing up in the Easter pictures wearing a wrinkled shirt.
No.
And it was not a great look for me. So it was a problem.
You went with the wrinkle instead of a different shirt that could have been ironed. Wow.
Yep. It was not great. So I missed on that one.
Did you guys match? Because some families go all out on the matching. And you're again, having two young daughters and being the only man in the house, I feel like you are in the situation where you could not avoid matching if that's the route they wanted to go.
Yeah. Thankfully, my two daughters matched, but I did not. So I was able to stand alone in that. So I did not have to fit into that. However, one of my best friends, I saw his wife post a picture of him on Facebook dressed wearing the same outfit as his two sons. So I don't know if I'm calling him out on that or if that's questionable. His two sons. All right, fine.
How old are his sons?
They're like 4 and 2. So it's a tough thing. I don't know. I don't know if I have a strong take yet, but I'm with you. I observe the clothing choices. I actually found myself kind of talked to a guy for the first time at church on Sunday and told him he had a nice shirt on. So that was my opening line. Is that my best line? I don't know. It's not great. It's
you
fine.
know me, I am very much against the traffic and weather small talk. So anything besides that, hey, nice shirt. I'm down for that. Madeline and I did not match. Couples matching, I don't know if that should be a thing. I appreciate when Madeline and I have similar color schemes, maybe. Oh, yeah, similar colored shirt. That's great. But all out matching as a married couple, it's a little too cheesy for me.
Just wear one big shirt then.
Yeah. I probably had the least outlandish Easter outfit I've ever had this year. Historically, I was pink pants guy, pink shorts guy.
Oh, wow.
But the pink pants are at my family's house. They are not where we're at Madeline and I's place right now. So I just went with the pink shirt. Pink shirt under the quarter zip. I'm a quarter zip guy. It was a little chilly. But recently, this is unrelated to Easter, I've gotten into wearing my boots. And I am very much a city boy. And I feel like I'm a hypocrite.
You're talking about?
Huh?
You're talking about cowboy boots?
Cowboy boots. Cowboy boots. I feel like a hypocrite sometimes pulling up in my cowboy boots because the lifestyle does not follow the cowboy boots. But for some reason, maybe it's living in Fort Worth for over a year now. Maybe the culture is growing on me. But I've had a fascination with my cowboy boots. So pulled those out for Easter. And not a bad look, according to my wife. And that's
that's all that really matters. Ultimately, that's the key. It's like, all right, if your wife is encouraging you to wear something, it's probably a good thing in the long run. But I'm also not willing to be a total clown. I'm not going to be a clown show. So I put my foot down at times. I'm not wearing that. That's not going to work for me. But I do try to get at least one new shirt for Easter. And I'm more of a fall guy. Like I like the maroons and the darker colors.
The flannels. You're a flannel guy.
Well, no, don't put me as a flannel guy.
You've worn a flannel on the show before, which was a bold statement.
I've dipped my toe in the flannels, but I'm not a flannel guy. So in the spring, I was always anti-pink guy. I never liked, like in high school, there was always like that was like a big trend for a
Not
while.
a real
Everybody
men
was
wear pink guy. Didn't
Yeah, I
describe to
wasn't
that.
that guy. I wasn't that guy. I held off for a long time, and then I finally, all right, I got a couple that are mixed in. I'm still not, even with 2 daughters, it's okay, but I'm more the light blues. So there you go. Not the
Light
Carolina blue.
blues. I was about
Not
to
Carolina
say
blue.
you're towing the line there.
I know
Carolina
it's
blue.
dangerous. It does get dangerous at times. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, it was a fun Easter time, and we saw both of our families, and it was nonstop fun and eating, and so I'm feeling it today. But there was a lot of great NBA taking place throughout the entire weekend as well, and so I did want to start there today for our I'm Convinced segment, because I'm convinced the NBA playoffs don't need LeBron James, don't need the Lakers, don't need the Clippers, don't need the Knicks. We are loaded with stars, intriguing storylines, up-and-coming coaches, incredible matchups, and game one across the board gave us plenty to be excited about for the playoffs that are now underway. Now we have to pace ourselves because it's a lot of long series, best of 7 across the board. And then this dip, goes all the way to June. It's a little bit different than March Madness. So the approach for me is a little bit different. You can't get too high or low after game one. We only saw a couple blowouts. The Sixers won convincingly. I did see some of that.
Phoenix.
The Warriors pulled away. So we'll see a couple convincing wins and probably a sweep or two for sure. But when you get a buzzer beater between Boston and Brooklyn,
oh yeah,
that series is setting up to be absolutely tremendous.
Yep.
And so to go the opposite of what I said on last week's show, where I said golf needs Tiger Woods, I'm saying the NBA doesn't need LeBron or the Lakers or their big brand, because now fringe fans are going to have to give this a try, because you may not, you're looking at the matchups and you're going, oh, the Timberwolves and the Grizzlies.
Yeah.
Who are those teams? When did they get around? Well, yeah, you probably haven't heard about the Timberwolves in 20 years because they haven't been relevant. Well, they are relevant now, and they got some stars, and they're fun to watch. And even the Grizzlies in the loss, Ja Morant had some jaw-dropping dunks and moves and plays, and the crowd in Memphis is nuts. So across the board, it's so much fun. Do you agree with this approach to the playoffs?
So I agree. I just want to make sure you're okay with committing treason against your boy LeBron and the Lakers. So this is a big statement for you.
I still love LeBron. I still love the Lakers. They're a mess, so we got to move on from them temporarily. They're trying to figure out trades, which may even involve my Charlotte Hornets, which is interesting too. But to me, there's just enough here. There's enough in the playoffs. So let's just go through a few things. With the Warriors, they're back. They're back. We got Steph Curry on the wall here. So they've got a new, they call it the death lineup, right? Where it's a killer lineup with, now they've got Andrew Wiggins. Now they've got Jordan Poole to go along with Green, Clay, and Steph. So they're back in the mix. Then they're going up against maybe a back-to-back MVP in Jokic.
Mm-hmm.
And so, or Jokic, what did I say? Jokic.
Nikola.
Jokic.
We'll go first name.
Yeah, Nikola Jokic. Not the tennis player. And so you got
Djokovic.
Yeah, that's right. So then you've got in the East, Milwaukee, the reigning champs.
Yeah,
they get a kind of this upstart team with a bunch of veterans with the Chicago Bulls. So can Giannis take his team back to the playoffs? You mentioned the Suns blowing out the Pelicans. Chris Paul, he's still got it. They're picking up right where they left off last year. They're hungry after losing to the Bucks in the finals, so they're intriguing. And then really with the Celtics, this is a team that sort of fell off a little bit, and we didn't know what direction they were going to go. And then this year, Brad Stevens moves upstairs. Udoka takes over. A lot of tough names these days in the NBA. It's like a worldwide game. It's a worldwide game, I'm telling you. And so the Celtics play like a team while also having a young superstar in Jason Tatum, who hit his first career buzzer beater, which is a big deal.
Yeah.
And then to actually beat the Brooklyn Nets, the team that everybody hates, right? Anybody joining me? We don't hate. We hate this team.
Yeah.
Fan hate, of course.
Except our boy Seth Curry. We love him.
Seth. Yes.
He's the saving grace for that squad.
What a bummer that he had to be
likability.
included. I know.
Yeah.
I hate that he got shipped there. You're right, because we definitely root for him. So, what's your favorite matchup so far?
I want to say your take reminds me that I personally am so glad to be out of the super team era. It felt like from like 2012 to 2019, most teams were wasting their time playing in the playoffs. Like, you have no chance. Maybe whoever LeBron was playing for, and either the Spurs or the Warriors or the Thunder, so those years.
Yep.
It was like, okay, if you're not them, well, you're just, I guess, playing for fun because you have no chance at winning. So it's better to miss the playoffs almost. Yeah, let's get a better draft pick. But now, this year, I've said this before, I love when teams who have struggled, who haven't been big names, are near the top. Memphis is a 2 seed. How fun is that? Phoenix the past few years. The Bulls really in the mix this year. This year, there is such a large handful of teams that have a legit chance making it to their conference finals. I have no idea how this is going to play out. It feels like a majority of the first round series, man, I don't know who's going to win. Memphis and Minnesota watching game 1. Goodness gracious,
awesome.
Minnesota can win that series. All the 4-5 matchups, Boston, Brooklyn that you were just saying, that's a great series. So as a basketball fan, yeah, do we need LeBron? No chance. There is so much great basketball to watch this season because I'm such a fan of parity. I love when I don't know how it's going to play out.
Absolutely, because it was getting so predictable.
Yes, which is again,
Warriors.
It's not fun. Okay, yeah, these first round matchups, yeah, it doesn't matter. We know who's making the conference finals. We know who's likely going to the finals this year. No idea. I have no idea, and that makes it great as a basketball fan.
Now we debated this a little bit a couple months ago, maybe a month ago. I'm a little bit different than you in that I still think it's between the Bucks, Warriors, and Suns. Those 3 teams are going to win it all. One of those 3 teams are going to win it all. And so you're a little bit more cracking the door open for other teams.
Yeah, I took the field.
Being in the mix. You took the field. And so, no, I appreciate that. I think it's exciting to think that one of these teams could surprise. Maybe it is the Sixers, that things click and it ends up happening. Yeah. Maybe Boston really is this legit. So I like the idea of that being a potential, but the Bucks still look good when it comes down to the wire. Yeah. And Giannis needs to carry them. He can do that with the Suns and Chris Paul, with the Warriors and Steph. Those teams have been there. They know what it takes, and I trust those teams more at this point. But I love that the Warriors were down and out, and now they're back. Mm-hmm. And that's why I think it'll be fun for LeBron and the Lakers down and out. I assume they'll be back. I do. At this age, maybe not so much. It's probably a little bit longer of a shot. But going back to last week, that's why we love the Tiger story. He's out, he comes back. Yeah. And so we do love, along with the parity that you're talking about, we love superstars falling a little bit, struggling a little bit, and then making their way back and reminding us what they're capable of doing. And that's really what the Warriors are doing this year. And hopefully Curry can get back to 100% and really shine. But he's got some other guys picking up the slack for him, which is fun.
Yeah, and just seeing Klay Thompson in playoff basketball, I mean, come on. That's so great. Headband Klay. The story of him coming back from ACL and Achilles.
Remarkable.
That's a really fun team.
Absolutely. Well, we'll get into some of the other storylines from the weekend as well, and Kyrie Irving being at the center of controversy, which he loves. So we'll try to unpack that a little bit. But I do want to get into unpack this, and we'll talk a little NFL. We've been talking so much basketball here on the show that the NFL is starting to get up and running again. So here on the show and each day, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we do a devotional that we call Unpack This. Basically, we take a sports story related to the Bible, related to our own lives. It's designed to encourage one another and point each other toward Jesus and get into the Word and understand the Word better. And so we try to unpack it a little bit here on the show, and then you can read it later in email form, written form, and you can subscribe for free on unpackingit.com. So go to unpackingit.com, subscribe to the Unpack This devotional, and we'll send that to you Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. All right. So the NFL voluntary workouts have begun. So the voluntary off-season program. And what's interesting is all 32 teams are entitled to a 9-week voluntary off-season program. Phase 1, 2 weeks, with activities limited to meetings, strength and conditioning, and physical rehab only. All right, so this is taking place. The draft is coming up, I guess, next week. And so teams are starting to meet. Now, they're not getting on the field, hitting each other or anything like that. That comes later. This is more, they get together, they go over, the coaches introduce the playbook for the upcoming year. New coaches, actually, those teams they get first dibs at the voluntary workouts, introduce themselves, their plan, their philosophies, all that sort of thing. And so this is taking place right now. 12 or 13 teams are starting up today. And so, normally most of the players show up for these voluntary workouts. And why do they do this? Well, they want to establish team chemistry. They want to improve their skills. They want to develop and grow as players, spend time with coaches, and demonstrate their commitment to the team. And oftentimes there are benefits, there are bonuses and rewards for players who show up even though they don't have to. And so each player has the freedom to choose whether or not they want to take advantage of the growth opportunities and the dedicated time, with their coach and teammates. And the other side of it, though, some players choose not to go. Some of them are in contract disputes, and some guys just say, "Nah, I'm good on my own. I don't need to go and be a part of that." Or, "I've been doing it so long. I'm a veteran. I don't need voluntary mini camp or voluntary workouts anymore. I'll let the young guys do that." And so everybody's got to make their choice, right? These players that choose not to go, they're still the ones that are secure in their spot, their roster spot. They don't have to worry. Like, all right, I'm not going. I'm secure. I'm in. I'm good to go. But they still have to choose to miss out on the value and the growth opportunities that are there. All right, so how does this relate to our own lives? Well, we're coming off of Easter, and hopefully everybody is fired up, excited, remembering what Jesus has done for us. And we live Easter every day as followers of Jesus, right? It's the big celebration over a weekend, and we get to gather and take it up a notch and all that kind of thing. But every day we're living as followers of Jesus because of the resurrection, because of the power that rose Jesus from the grave, lives within us, and God's faithfulness and love and grace was demonstrated on the cross and then Jesus rising again. And so now, as followers of Jesus, what does that look like to live as a follower? Well, in relation to this, there are voluntary workouts for you and I to participate in while here on earth, right? And so we are securely on God's team when we surrender to him and place our faith and hope in the death and resurrection of Jesus. But so we don't have to worry about losing the spot, but we have opportunities to grow, develop, and become more like him, establish team chemistry with our teammates, other believers, and also demonstrate our commitment to him by participating in voluntary workouts such as fellowship, going to church, worship, corporate worship, serving at church, praying, meditating on scripture, studying God's word, fasting, taking a solo retreat, a soul retreat type of thing. And investing our time and efforts into growth opportunities to know God, to become more like him, and to do so with other believers. And so what a tremendous invitation we have to participate in this. So why would we pass up this offer, right? These voluntary workouts can be considered, spiritual disciplines that really are benefits, bonuses, rewards to those of us that show up and say, yeah, I want to spend time with God. I want to go to corporate worship. I want to serve God and others. And so 1 Timothy 4:8, physical training is good, but training for godliness is much better, promising benefits in this life and the life to come. And so an NFL player, he loves football. And so he wants to show up to voluntary workouts because he loves football. And so you and I, if we love God, we want to follow Jesus, then we absolutely want to do what's going to enhance our faith and help us become more like him. And so, Luke, curious your thoughts on what you've experienced in your walk with the Lord as far as spiritual disciplines and understanding that, yeah, we don't read the word or go to church so that we earn salvation. We know that that's because of faith. It's not based on anything we do, but these are all opportunities for us to grow and mature. So how have you taken advantage of those voluntary workouts?
Yeah. Just to echo, we know clearly any type of work cannot save us. Ephesians 2 talks about that. Salvation's a gift from God. No one may boast. But we're created. Part of what happens when we're saved is good works, and spiritual disciplines help with that. I guess my first response is sometimes we overthink spiritual disciplines and we try to get so creative that we forget to do the main things, which is reading God's word, praying, and communing, fellowshipping with God's people in our local church. So no matter how creative we are with the spiritual discipline, if we're getting away from those things, then we're missing the point. We need to be reading God's word. We need to be fellowshipping with his people, which is the church, and we need to be praying. Now, there are creative ways to accomplish those things, which has been something I've been thinking about recently. I don't know if you've come across something called a rule of life, but I learned about that recently. And it's basically like you can craft a document and outline how you go about your life, what your goals are, and then specific ways to do that. So there was one rule of life I saw by a guy named Jeremy Linneman on his website, and he had it broken up into 4 things. So he had community with God, community with people, human flourishing, and mission and call. And he had a verse, a vision for each of those, and then specific bullet points on how he wanted to accomplish those things. And I thought that was fascinating because I'm not a very organized person, but I have learned that I really benefit from approaching each day with some level of organization. How am I going to accomplish things this day? And crafting a rule of life for how we want to go about our lives, I thought was fascinating. So I know you have organization in your life, and whether it's through journaling or other things. But I was wondering if you've ever heard of a rule of life, because specifically in regards to spiritual disciplines, I've been reading about crafting a rule of life for how I want to live my life basically as a follower of Christ, as a way to be disciplined and have some type of accountability to fall back on.
Man, no, I haven't heard of that specifically, but I love it. I think that's cool. That's absolutely helpful. And yeah, I mean, the reality is if we don't have a plan for how we're going to grow and become more like Jesus, then we're just going to kind of float through. And then what we experienced, through from Easter, but ultimately what we experienced when we first gave our life to Jesus, then we're just going to kind of stay there. We're going to stay as immature believers. And so there's so much more for us to experience and to understand and character that must change. And so we've got to be able to embrace these voluntary workouts, that we can't take them for granted. And we can't say, I don't need them, or I don't need to show up, or I'm good on my own, because all too often that's kind of the case. And actually on last week's podcast, I just had Andy Lee on for the interview podcast that we do. And we were talking, he was sharing a little bit just how he got out of routine because of the pandemic. And many people can relate to this, where you stop going to church. Honestly, yesterday, churches were probably packed everywhere. and people came back to church for the first time in 2 years,
Mhm.
right? And so hopefully that's not, just a one-off, but you get back into the discipline of going, and as we go, then we're taught the word. We're fellowshipping with other believers. We're rubbing off of one another. We're pointing each other to Jesus. And so all these things factor in. We don't just, sit on our hands, so to speak.
Yeah. And we don't stumble. I mean, this is in my own life. I definitely know this. And then just as I've talked to other people, we don't just accidentally stumble into spiritual growth. Like ultimately, our spiritual growth is the work of God.
Amen.
But in some mystery, there is our human effort that is involved. Like we're not just passively sitting around, all right, God, grow me. Like there is a responsibility for us to participate in spiritual growth, ultimately as God, through the power of his spirit, is igniting that and leading that. But that's where spiritual disciplines come into play. Growing spiritually is an intentional thing in our own lives. And when I think of when I, through God's grace and through people holding me accountable, when I am intentional about my growth, man, it's awesome. But then when I kind of sit back and there's been seasons or weeks or however long, and I'm just kind of passively going along, and growth becomes stagnant real quick.
I'm glad you brought that up. So Philippians 2, 12 and 13, this is the Amplified. It says, Paul writes this, continue to work out your salvation, in parentheses, that is, cultivate it, bring it to full effect, actively pursue spiritual maturity with awe-inspired fear and trembling, using serious caution and critical self-evaluation to avoid anything that might offend God or discredit the name of Christ. For it is not your strength, but it is God who is effectively at work in you, both to will and to work. That is, strengthening, energizing, and creating in you the longing and the ability to fulfill your purpose for his good pleasure. And so it's him working in us, and it's us actively seeking him, pursuing him, relying on him, and you use the word intentional, being intentional about spiritual growth. And so what are we putting in our ears? What are we watching? What are we talking about with other people, sharpening one another? All of those things God will use through that to grow us and change us and strengthen us.
And I would just say, so when I think of my life, when I'm trying to plan out things to do, and I start having all these ideas, oh, I want to do this. Oh, here's a great way to accomplish this spirit. Here's another spiritual discipline. I overwhelm myself and I end up doing nothing because I'm trying to add so many spiritual disciplines.
Ooh.
So my encouragement and what's worked for me is, again, I think of three main ones: spending time in God's word, prayer, and fellowship with God's people. So for those of you listening and watching, what I have done is, what disciplines can I add to foster more of those things? Not all these creative, adding 30 different spiritual disciplines. But again, what can I do in my life to spend more time in God's word, more time in prayer, and more time with God's people? And it's going to look different for everyone. The amount of time, what it looks like, how often, what time of day. But those three need to be our focus.
Yeah, no, that's good. And yeah, I think those other, talk about prayer. Well, to me, journaling helps prayer. And so, yeah, that can be the focus.
Yep.
You talk about reading God's word. Being in a Bible study helps that.
Yep.
And being with other believers helps that. So, yeah, there are other elements underneath those three kind of core tenets for spiritual growth. I'm right there with you. So there's the encouragement today, comparing it to voluntary workouts. NFL players that are getting better in the off season, they're most likely showing up to these off season workouts. They're building the chemistry. They're understanding their coach better. They're getting to know their coaches better, and they're taking advantage of the blessings that come from doing the voluntary workouts. So there you go. All right. Well, the NBA playoffs are taking place. We got that going on, and your team, the Dallas Mavs, are without Luka. So, how are you feeling about that? My team, the Hornets, lost in the play-in game, got dominated, which was very unfortunate. So we talked about how excited we are about the NBA playoffs earlier. How concerned are you with your boy Luka being out?
It's just disappointing. Like for the Mavs to be the higher seed, to be hosting their series for the first time since 2011, the glorious year of the Mavs championship. It's just disappointing to have your best player injured. And I don't think, I mean, I'm sure there's Utah Jazz fans that are, I'm so glad Luka's out. But I'm not just saying this. I've said this on the other side. As a sports fan, we want to see the best players play.
Absolutely.
Obviously, it's easy for me to say that because my team is missing their best player. But we want to see Donovan Mitchell go at it with Luka. We all want to see Luka play. So, it's disappointing, but I'm very proud of game one. This is a huge opportunity for Jalen Brunson to show, hey, I deserve some big dollars. He's in a contract year. And the Mavs played really well. I think if the Mavs can steal game two, I think Luka will return this series, but I don't know. I'm very nervous when it comes to calf strains and calf injuries because we saw Kevin Durant return too early, tore his Achilles. Calf injuries you have to be so cautious with. So, I don't know. I was very pleased with the team effort to be able to have a real competitive game one. But the Mavs without Luka should not and will not win the series against Utah.
No way. But let's face it, the Mavs are not a championship caliber team yet. No. They are building toward it. So it's absolutely not worth pushing Luka back.
Definitely not.
Or having further injuries.
By no means interested in risking next season for Luka to try to have some miraculous run. Mavs are not beating Phoenix in a series. They're not beating Milwaukee. No, so you're right. I just want a competitive series, and I really, even without Luka, I think the Mavs can make it competitive, but they're not going to win the series.
And that's always interesting too, because with the way series are set up, even going back to March Madness, like teams' goals are different. Like just getting to a series is a big deal for the Pelicans. Like they were ahead of schedule, like by even making the playoffs. Yeah. And then other teams is like, hey, we got to get to the second round. Hey, we got to break through. The Grizzlies are just they're shocked to be in number 2. So everybody's standards a little bit different, but I think for Dallas, you got to have Luka, and if he's out there, obviously the expectations are higher. But to me, it was if he's healthy, then winning a round or two would have been the win this year.
Exactly.
But to try to just suck it up to win 2 games and then go down in the first round.
No, I want to ask you about Charlotte. So, I don't want to be Mr. ESPN hater guy, but I saw a segment after Charlotte lost in the play-in game, how something along the lines of, is LaMelo's time in Charlotte coming to a close?
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, I was sick to my stomach reading that. I'm like, are we serious? It's not even what? What are we talking about?
I'm so glad you brought this up because I was thinking about this. I heard local radio talking about it too. This whole idea that players have to leave to go to the big cities. Are we serious? Are we still talking about that? That's such an outdated take. It doesn't even make sense. I mean, think about it. Even just factor in the pandemic and how that changed everything. I mean, we got more people moving to Charlotte. I mean, I can't even begin to tell you the traffic here in Charlotte. Where are they coming from? They're leaving all these other places. So don't tell me that LaMelo has to get out of Charlotte. Are you crazy? So now if the Hornets don't build around him and make the right decisions and get him the right pieces, and if Gordon Hayward can't play more than 3 games a season, it feels like, and Anthony Davis, they got to go be on their own team and just go play at the Y or something. But they're too fragile. Pick another sport maybe. But no, Look at Milwaukee. Giannis stayed. Those guys in Phoenix are staying. Booker and Ayton, like those guys are building something. Chris Paul won't be there forever. How are the Clippers and the Lakers doing with their $420 million combined? Get out of here.
Can I also add, can we be more patient with team building? Why all of a sudden? Well, I guess I understand why. You have to win now, or can we be patient?
Build a team,
actually give your franchise time to build around your star.
Yep.
And I don't know, this championship or bust in a 2-year window is ridiculous. It is so, you and I talked about it last year. It was amazing, regardless of who you're a fan of, seeing Giannis stay in Milwaukee and then win a championship.
Loved
by
it.
slowly building around him. Charlotte, give it time. Give it time. Dallas, Dallas now you're in year 3. Year 3 or 4. Dallas now, you better start actually putting things together. But as a Dallas fan, it's not, we're not winning it all yet. No, that's not the mentality. It's, hey, are we building towards something? Yeah, but give it time. So
absolutely.
Yeah, it frustrates me when fans are impatient and they're only willing to wait a year or 2 years. Oh, got to blow it all up. No. It's ridiculous.
Or that the media pushes the narrative that these big time stars have to go to New York or LA. Like, I can't believe that that's still a thing to talk about when those 3 teams are not in it. They're not in the playoffs. So why would they want
if anything, you definitely don't want to go to New York. If we've learned anything, is you want to avoid New York.
Yeah. I understand your show is based in New York, but don't give me that. And I guess I'm talking from a guy based in Charlotte, but still, I stick by it with Milwaukee and now Memphis. Ja Morant's going to stay in Memphis. And don't tell me that Zion has to leave New Orleans.
No.
Bring him back and put him with this great lineup of CJ McCollum and Brandon Ingram.
Yeah, that's a great roster.
That's a tremendous with Valanciunas.
Yeah.
Jackson Hayes is actually turning out to be a decent first-round pick. So they're building something. They got a young coach in Willie Green. Give it time. Now they get a little playoff experience.
Yep.
And don't tell me that Zion has to leave to go to New York. No, he doesn't. He can play in New Orleans and be just fine.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's a good. Thanks for getting me all riled up. I was thinking about it a few days ago. I kind of forgot about it.
Well, I remember seeing that. I'm like, I've got to ask Bryce about this because this is just ridiculous. What the conversation and narrative is turning into. So I needed to ask a voice of reason Charlotte fan. What are they saying on the ground?
There you go. I like it. All right. So we love doing the Medi-Share moment of the week. And I normally am not keeping an eye on college baseball, even though college baseball it's a fun sport when you do catch it, but it's just not necessarily on the forefront of my.
The College World Series is tremendous. True. So it is very entertaining.
Yeah. So the Medi-Share moment of the week. I was actually going to try to share my screen, but I didn't try to do it. So I couldn't, all right, forget it. We're just going to listen to this call. So this is Virginia and Pittsburgh. It's the bottom of the 5th and no outs. And what happens? A triple play. Here we go.
1-2 pitch. On the ground, left side. Geloff comes home for the force. Teal pivots. It's 2. Oh, what a play. Ortiz tosses the ball. Runner coming to the plate. Ow! It's a triple play.
Let's go. Triple play. How great is that? So well, the funny thing is he actually didn't have a good idea of how many outs there were. So he thought the inning was over and they threw the ball and then he went and got it and said, oh, the guy's trying to steal home. Oh, this inning is still alive. And he throws it just in time for a triple play. So that is the Medi-Share moment of the week. How rare and hard to accomplish a triple play. So we got to give some love to Virginia on that one. So they were able to do that. Now, as impressive as this was, on Saturday we celebrated Easter with my wife's family. My brother-in-law, he has a an 8-year-old son and 2 daughters that are twins that are 5. And so we're out in the backyard and they're playing kickball. And so I've made my way off the couch and I'm out there and hey, Uncle Bryce, you want to play a little kickball? Okay. I'm wearing my Sperry's, and which was another problem with
I feel like you are keeping Sperry's in business. You're a Sperry's guy, big Sperry's guy.
I have worn the same style of Sperry's for the last 10 plus years. The exact same style. I get a new one every couple of years.
Oh,
a new pair.
Man.
So anyways, I was wearing those, and I didn't think. Here's another side note. Whenever I show up to somebody's house, I immediately take off my shoes. I don't know where you come out on that, but I was raised to take off my shoes when entering a home. Now, some people think that's funny because it's like, oh, there's Bryce with his bare feet or with his socks walking around my house. They would almost rather me have shoes on. But I have a strict, I'm taking my shoes off when I enter in. So if I have slip-ons, that's always the best choice. So that's why I lean with Sperry's, the easy on-off, versus you enter a home and then you're fiddling around with untying and tying shoes. I don't want to deal with all that.
Take it to the next level. Go the leather flip-flops route. I've been team leather flip-flops for a few years now. And you want to talk about an easy on-off transition. There's nothing better.
Wow. No,
but with the recent boots phase I'm in, cowboy boots, horrendous to take on and off.
Oh man, you're fumbling. You're having to lean on something.
I need a second hand. I got to call in backup to get these things off.
Yeah, you got to like sit down. I've only worn cowboy boots probably like 2 or 3 times in my life. So it's I don't own any. But anyway, so I'm at my in-laws, not my in-laws, my brother-in-law's house. And so we're outside playing kickball. And I don't really play sports anymore. All right. I watch sports. I've got a ministry for sports fans. I'm all in on being a fan, right? So the activity for me is very minimal. However, growing up, I was very competitive. Not always the best athlete, but very competitive. And every once in a while, the switch gets turned on. And I click. It's like I click in, and the juices start flowing. And so as soon as my little 8-year-old cousin pitches, all right, I'm gonna kick. He gives me all the rules for their backyard rules, and I'm like, all right, how do I hit a home run? No opportunity. There was no opportunity for the over the fence home run. It was like, you can't kick it into the woods. He told me you can't kick it into the woods, and I'm thinking, I want to kick it into the woods. But what I did was I found a hole in the infield, and I gave it a good kick. And what did I do? While holding Maddie, going head to head with Hudson as the pitcher, I kicked it past him, ran to first, ran to second, made my way toward third, all the way home for an in the park home run. And I yelled as loud as I could, home run!
Oh,
I felt like I had just won the national championship. I had just won the World Series, and I'm reeling from the Easter ham, and I'm going nuts that I just kicked the ball past an 8-year-old while holding a 2-year-old. I mean, what a nut job I am. And then I get yelled at by the 5-year-old twins saying, you can't yell like that. You're not allowed to yell like that. So I broke the rules. I was too loud. So there you go. I
thought you were going to say you tried to kick it into the gap and end up hitting one of them in the face with the hardest kick they've ever seen, which is a risk. You're already thinking, I've got to put this ball into the woods, but I'll try to squeeze it in this gap between first and second. But
just imagine what a nut job I am that my thought isn't, we're just having a good little time kicking the ball around. I'm thinking, how do I get a home run?
Yeah.
To relive the glory days of kickball.
They've got to learn. Hey, Uncle Bryce, we're calling Uncle Bryce out here. You're getting 100% effort, Uncle Bryce.
That's right. I'm not letting anybody win. There's no winning. No way. No. It was
you holding your daughter while having an inside the park home run just makes it even great. Right? Even greater. I would have loved to see that in person.
That was
you're sprinting around the bases, holding your daughter in one arm, trash talking with the other hand, pointing at them.
I would also use the word sprint loosely. But I was making my way. I was fast enough to beat the 8-year-old around the bases. So there you go. Happy Easter. Well, the other big topic that's interesting is the status of NFL quarterbacks right now. So we're heading into the draft, and it just kind of hit me that we only have a few elite quarterbacks, and then we have kind of this next tier of rising stars. You know, the Justin Herberts, Joe Burrow. Like it's still early. Like they've done a lot already. Burrow just took his team, but we're kind of getting light on the elite quarterbacks at the moment. Rodgers, Brady, and then Drew Brees is done. We've lost some of the top guys in recent years. Phillip Rivers, Ben Roethlisberger, Eli. Those guys are gone. So
Tony Romo's gone.
Tony Romo's gone. I saw a thing today that was comparing Tony Romo to Troy Aikman, and that somehow saying Romo was better quarterback. Something on social media. But anyway, the NFL right now, I look across the league, and the fact that we may not have a team draft a quarterback in the top 10, which is shocking, but it speaks to the status that there are only a couple teams actually desperate for a quarterback. And I would even say it's probably Seattle at this point, because even the Panthers, who I don't feel great about, but Sam Darnold at least was a top, what was he, the second or third pick by the Jets?
I think, yeah.
And he showed glimpses last year. He fell off the cliff midway through the season, but at least early in the season, you can talk yourself into, all right, we can at least roll out with Sam Darnold. The Steelers can at least convince themselves, all right, we can roll out with Mitch Trubisky. The Giants, Daniel Jones, the Falcons, Marcus Mariota. Like, to me, those are the bottom teams' quarterback situations. And so even the Saints with Jameis Winston, like, it's like, all right, fine, we'll go with those guys. So to go into the draft without someone, even the Lions with Jared Goff, it's like, all right, yeah, we can ride it with Jared Goff. Yep. That's fascinating to me that's where we're at. Now, not that these guys are necessarily franchise guys, but what will this mean for the quarterbacks like Kenny Pickett? Will they slip and then end up in a situation where they're a backup quarterback and they may or may not compete for a starting spot during training camp, depending on where they go? Teams like the Bucs and the Colts can end up drafting a quarterback as their backup of potential future and play behind clear cut franchise guys, Matt Ryan, Tom Brady. So it's just a fascinating setup where we're at. So I don't know your thoughts on, is there a team that really is desperate for a quarterback, and just the fact that Jimmy Garoppolo may not find a home, or that Baker Mayfield he's desperate for a spot, whereas it felt like a couple years ago even. It was like, oh man, teams, we're looking for quarterbacks. We can't find any quarterbacks.
Yeah. Well, I just pulled up the draft order. Jacksonville, they have their guy. Detroit, Jared Goff, good quarterback. Quarterback is not the issue in Detroit. The Texans at 3, Davis Mills showed enough to have a second chance. It's just a very poor roster. The Jets have their guy. The Giants probably haven't seen enough with Daniel Jones. Now you got a new coach there. Yeah, it seems interesting. That we talked before the show. Mariota deserves another shot in Atlanta. Why? Like, give him a chance.
But it's not out of the question to think, all right, former number 2 quarterback, now with some more experience as a backup, another shot, another opportunity. Let's see what he's got.
Yeah. So it is interesting because a lot of these bottom feeders have their guys, or at least have guys that.
Yeah, Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson.
Yeah. The issues with those rosters aren't, well, we just need a quarterback. No, you need a lot. You need to actually build around some of these incredibly talented young quarterbacks. Very interesting. Very interesting. So
Washington win on Wentz.
It makes me think, we've talked about Baker Mayfield. To be a quarterback looking for a new place to kind of have a second chance, it's very interesting, because are there are there less holes to fill at quarterback than usual? It's like, where does Baker go? It's not like we've talked about this. It's not like there are so many teams that have these glaring needs at quarterback. So what happens for a guy like Baker?
Yeah, well, to think that a former number 1 pick is begging for a job, almost sadly
at
begging
26
for a
or
job.
27 years old.
Yeah. It's just so I'm just trying to figure out, okay, how did we get here with the NFL? Like all of a sudden it's like, wait, everybody's kind of set up pretty well. And it's kind of like musical chairs, and he's the guy left out when the music stops. And so there is talk here in Charlotte that the Panthers are the team leading the way to get him. But it doesn't seem realistic to have Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield. You're already on the hook for Darnold financially. Now, if the Browns are willing to take on Baker's contract, that's a different story. And then I would think other teams would get in on that, because Baker, very cheap, at a couple $1,000,000 that you're on the hook for, is a good backup. And so some of these teams that are fighting for the playoffs and Super Bowl contenders, they would love to have Baker Mayfield as a backup if Cleveland's willing to pay most of his salary. So that's another story. But to think that the Panthers, would go and trade and give up a bunch to get Baker Mayfield, that doesn't seem realistic. And I sure hope they don't. As a Panthers fan, that would not be my choice. I've made it clear I don't think Baker Mayfield is a franchise guy. I know there is this contingency of people that have said, well, look what Baker did, man. He won a playoff game with the Browns. Like, they never win, and he's able to do that. And look what he did in Cleveland. I think they had a good roster. They run the ball well.
Very talented roster.
Cleveland was willing to give up on him. They said, we're going to give up on him. Then why would I want my team to go get him? That's
true.
No, thank you. So that's where I come out on that.
It is interesting. But yeah, because for Baker now, I mean, Indianapolis seemed like, oh yeah, okay, he could Indianapolis is the plug and play franchise the past couple of years, but they went with a very ancient Matt Ryan trying to milk the last part of his career out.
Absolutely.
And passed on, like you said, former number 1 pick, who is age-wise is in his prime, entering his prime.
It's wild.
They went with old Matt Ryan. It's interesting.
I'm all in on the Colts. They just signed Stephon Gilmore. I'm feeling good about the moves they've made. They're doing a really nice job. All right, one more thing before we jump into Tap Drill with Henry. Your boy Jordan Spieth got the win on Easter yet again, and kind of came back somewhat out of nowhere. All of a sudden, he gets that eagle. I happened to catch that one. And then he found himself in contention and was able to finish strong and win in a playoff against Cantlay. And so pretty impressive for him, following the Masters that, left a little bit to be desired from Spieth, for sure.
Yeah. Back-to-back years winning on Easter. It's also cool. So Madeline and I, our honeymoon was to Hilton Head, and we went on to the lighthouse, and you can see down to the 18th green. So watching this tournament and seeing the lighthouse and the green, very fond memories being there. It's also so cool. The plaid checkered jacket that the winners get to wear is really awesome. The most fascinating thing was, I can't remember which day it was, but it was not Sunday. Jordan on 18 missed an 18-inch putt and dropped a shot. An 18-inch putt. One of those, I'm just going to go tap it in real quick. It lipped out. And he ends up having to go to a playoff. And everyone's like, wait, is that putt going to cost him? But he ended up getting the win, which was awesome. Especially being from Dallas, we all love seeing Jordan Spieth win just because he's so fun to watch. So that was cool. And it's a great tournament, too.
You find him fun to watch?
So maybe fun's not the right word. It's more emotionally exhausting because he's so chaotic to watch. Gets himself into trouble. Miraculous shots out, these very low lows, very high highs. It's not, Jordan Spieth fandom is not for everyone, but if you're ready for the roller coaster ride, it's a good time.
I know it is. It's high highs and wins, and then he misses cuts, and it's crazy. But I guess that's the life of a golfer anyway. All right, well, let's jump into Tap Drill. We are brought to you by Medi-Share. Check out Medi-Share.com/unpacking it. and be sure to get a quote and figure out if Medi-Share is the right fit for you. Has been for me and my family. So encourage you to check that out. All right, Henry, man, a lot going on in and around the sports world, and the NBA playoffs continue tonight. How are you doing, man? We got your hat backwards. Look at you.
It's a hat backwards kind of day.
Yeah, it's definitely a hat backwards kind of day, especially after the Easter weekend. And happy Easter weekend, happy Resurrection Sunday to everybody. It was a busy weekend.
Resurrection Monday, baby. Let's go.
Yes, sir. We did. We had our annual crosswalk on Good Friday, where at 10 o'clock a.m. we walked from our church to downtown Waterbury. That's about a 3-mile walk, and we have the men and women carrying crosses along the way to commemorate the walk that Jesus did. So we had that. Then we fed the homeless. We went to one of the members of our congregation, our women's president she works in a shelter, and they were giving out food for that weekend. Then Friday night we had the 7 last words of Christ, and so we did some commentary on that. And then, of course, on Easter Sunday, we had 2 services on Easter Sunday. We had what we call a sunrise service at 5:30 a.m., and then we had our normal, I shouldn't say normal, our regular Sunday morning service at 10:30 a.m., where everybody, as you guys correctly indicated in the beginning, coming in with the hats and the suits and the fashion show. Me personally, I was in clergy, so I didn't have to worry about any of that.
Oh, there you go. It takes the pressure off.
Exactly.
Probably for the best.
All right, boys, let's jump into some tap drill. And Bryce, you were talking about the kickball game earlier, and you had your daughter, you're running around the bases. I couldn't think of a better broadcaster to highlight this momentous occasion than our boy, Gus Johnson. Gus Johnson is back, ladies and gentlemen. He is calling the Raptors-Sixers game tonight, and then he's calling another game later on in the week. So, boys, Gus Johnson, NBA, TNT, let's go.
Man, this was such great news. So exciting to hear. I miss having him during March Madness, and so to now get him during the NBA playoffs, it's just it's just ridiculous that he's not in more big time games. He's with Fox, and so he does just kind of college football here and there, college basketball, and so he dabbled in NFL last year. Now he's getting into the NFL, and so to me, he needs to be in key games, key moments. I'm fired up for tonight. Can't wait to watch and listen as Gus Johnson is on the call.
It's beautiful. We get to watch basketball with Gus Johnson on the call, and then throw it to Ernie and the guys in the studio. What did we do to deserve this?
I know.
But yeah, Gus Johnson wasting away calling Big 12 football games on Fox. Are you kidding me? This guy is one of the greatest broadcasters to ever do it. Get him on the big stuff. Come on. So very excited.
You got Gus Johnson and Kevin Harlan are right there. Put them anywhere. Put them at a football game. Put them at a basketball game, and you can't help but to listen.
That's it. They add the excitement. That's what we want. It's fun. Very cool.
All right, boys. Going into the NFL, and Bryce, I know you like talking about these guys. I know they're your favorite people in the world. We're going to be talking about a kicker, or maybe a punter. Well, if you talk to Matt Ariza, he actually wants to do both. So he's going into the draft. He's originally going into the draft as a punter, and from all signs, he's going to get drafted probably in the later part of day 3 of the draft. But he wants NFL teams to know that he's not just a punter. You could bring him in as a kicker also. Now, NFL teams usually get the punter on when the kicker goes down with an injury. I'm not too sure how that happens, but he actually wants to do both. So what do you think of Matt Ariza being a punter and a kicker?
Well, to me, this should be a thing in the NFL because it saves a roster spot. I mean, I remember years ago, the Panthers had a place kicker and a kickoff specialist and a punter to have 3 roster spots. I mean, it's like, come on, what are we doing here? So if somebody could get good enough at both, the problem is to be elite at both. We're talking about 32 kickers, 32 punters. So if you were a guy that could get to that level for both, it'd be very rare. However, if it was me, I would rather be a punter. And so I think I've made it clear my thoughts sometimes on field goal kickers, but to be a punter, Andy Lee was on the show. Encourage you to check out that podcast. 19 years in the NFL. He's heading into year 19. And to me, the consistency of being a punter versus kickers, man, they get cut so easily. It's hard. To me, the pressure's greater. So I would choose punting, but an interesting
no-brainer. It's difficult to make an egregious mistake that hurts your team as a punter.
Yeah. It's not as showcased.
And it's also difficult to really affect the game in a big way as a punter. So you can just be there forever. Like punters, yes. Do they have an important role? Well, yeah, to some extent. But they just kind of, I'm not going to do anything great. I can't do anything tremendous to really impact the game to where I'm deciding if my team's winning or losing. And it's hard unless I just have butterfingers to really hurt my team's chances in winning or losing my team games. So be able to play in the NFL for 15, 16, 17, so many years and never have to get hit. Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about. What a better life.
Go and get a hit though, get a tackle.
Yeah, you're not expected to hit, but if you make any contact with someone and come out successful, you're a hero. So the foundation is set wow, losing my words here. The foundation is set for you to not fail, basically, which is great.
That's right.
Making tackles a la Pat McAfee, making tackles on special teams. All right, boys, let's keep it moving here. And of course, if you like the match, get ready for match. What is it? Round 3 now? Is it now? But the special
more than that. It's like number 5.
We're talking about 5? Oh, okay, then. But in this particular the match, there are no pro golfers involved anywhere. Instead, we got 4 of the best quarterbacks in the NFL going at it. Here's the pairing. We've got Tom Brady, arguably the greatest quarterback of all time, only if you talk to Aaron Rodgers, against the future Hall of Famer, Pat Mahomes, unless you talk about this guy, Josh Allen. So what do you think of the pairings for the upcoming the match?
Gosh, this is intriguing to watch 4 stud quarterbacks out on the golf course going head to head. I imagine there'll be plenty of trash talk. I guess I'm a little surprised they didn't put Rodgers and Mahomes together with their State Farm. I feel like they could have played off of that, but anyway, no, these are 4 big names. I think it's in the middle of the summer, right? This should be fun to watch. I mean, you're not watching to see how well they're hitting golf shots. It's almost you want to see how bad they are, probably. But to me, it's the banter. It's the relationship between the 2 of each of them. I'll be intrigued to see that on that stage for sure.
It's wild that I guess their thinking is we don't need anyone who does this for a living.
Yeah.
Golf is just the means to get them on camera together now, which it's very interesting to me because the match started with Tiger versus Phil.
That's right.
And now it's just 4 quarterbacks competing in golf. It's very interesting. I'm going to watch it, but I'm not dying to watch it. So to me, it's getting annoying in some parts where the interviews, the guys can't hear who's asking them questions. There's delays. People are talking over each other. I don't know.
Yeah.
Part of me is kind of getting sick of it. And I've seen enough.
You know what? It would actually be better if they recorded it and cut it down and made it, you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be live because who cares who wins? Like it doesn't, to me, that's not what it's about. So I would turn it into a much tighter, better TV show to where I can't commit 4 or 5 hours to it, but give me an hour and a half. All right, then I'm in. And just show me the highlights and then get some, really get them when they're talking versus them standing around.
Yeah. So, or trying to talk over each other because of the delay of the call And that's the only problem we've had with the Manning cast is when there's a huge delay, awkward, or when people try to talk and begin questions at the same time because there's a delay. So,
all right, I was going to mention this because last night I happened to catch a little Sunday Night Baseball on my way to watching the NBA playoffs.
I was about to say that could not have been intentional.
No,
And Sunday Night Baseball.
So believe it or not, this is what was happening. I was folding clothes, listening to Alex Rodriguez on the special mega cast or whatever they call him and Michael K, the K-Rod cast, whatever it is. And I was captivated. I was absolutely captivated by A-Rod. I hate to admit it because I'm not really an A-Rod guy, and he's okay on Shark Tank. I've seen him on there a few times, and yeah, he's fine. But the conversation that he was having and the stories that he was telling, I was like, this is great. I don't want to turn it. I don't think I turned it until a commercial. And I was like, oh, I got to go catch the end of the Bulls-Bucks game. And so anyway, I thought it was pretty good.
We need to send this clip into Major League Baseball because one of the biggest haters of Major League Baseball in Bryce Johnson is watching baseball over NBA playoffs.
I know.
Because of A-Rod. So
also send this clip to my wife because I was folding the clothes.
That's right. When you first began saying this, I'm like, are you doing like an act of penance right now? You're watching baseball and folding laundry? What did you do wrong? This got to be a punishment. Folding laundry, watching baseball? What are we doing here?
It was for the kickball incident. I wasn't supposed to yell in the backyard. That's what my 5-year-old nieces said.
Yeah.
No.
Well, breaking news. Bryce Johnson is watching baseball and folding clothes at the same time. We got to save this clip. Some more breaking news for you guys. Back to the world of golf. And I'm hooked on golf when it comes to Connecticut for the Travelers Championship when it comes here June 23rd. We've got some updates as who's going to be there. We got number 5 in the world, Rory McIlroy, number 7, Justin Thomas, number 9, Dustin Johnson, and just committing to the Travelers Championship is Scotty Scheffler.
Oh, yeah.
Coming to River Highlands, and I'm definitely going to be there. So what do you guys think of Scotty Scheffler coming into the Major's 5th tournament?
Wow. The Major's 5th tournament. Well, so I was disappointed because when Madeline, my wife, was living in Connecticut, she was going to volunteer there. But then COVID happened and kind of ruined that. But she was going to be in the hospitality VIP tent with her Traveler shirt. She works for Travelers.
Oh, I've seen that.
Was going to be able to volunteer
definitely
there.
VIP. You ain't lying. It's definitely VIP.
So I was looking forward to hearing how that went. But Travelers Championship is awesome. So, and I'm Team Scotty Sheffler. Any chance to watch him play golf, I'm in.
That'll be exciting. That's a good field. I like it. Go ahead, Henry. Last one, man.
Actually, that was the last one. We actually just threw that in there. As a matter of fact, you know what? One more. We got to get back to football, kind of sort of football light, if you want to call it. Did you guys watch any of the USFL this weekend?
I only caught actually I saw this incredible touchdown catch. That was about as much as I saw, but I don't even know who it was. The Renegades or something. I don't know. But I was very I don't know what the term is. There were no fans in the crowd. Like those were empty stadiums. So what was that about? I mean, they're like $10 tickets. They couldn't get enough people there. So that was a little discouraging. But you know what jumped out to me are the coaches involved. Jeff Fisher wearing his hat like Henry over there.
Larry Fedora,
was
head coach.
Well, and then your former head coach, Kevin Sumlin.
Yeah, I had no idea these guys were going to be coaches in the USFL. It's fascinating.
But I can't understand. So Sumlin, why like at his age, this is the best he could do? I'm surprised by that.
Yeah, you got to think there's a college job for him.
Yeah.
Like even having Clay Helton on the Unpacking It podcast, going to Georgia Southern. Like there's jobs. So I don't know.
That was surprising to me to see him at the USFL. Wow. All right. Well, great show, guys. There's Tap Drill. Thanks, Henry. Appreciate you. Luke, great show. Thanks to everybody listening on this Easter Monday. If you had the day off, hope you are enjoying it, soaking it in. Thanks for spending some time with us here on the Unpacking It live podcast. And thanks to everybody that listens later on. Hopefully you've already subscribed to the Unpack This devotional. And hopefully you were encouraged today as we talked about voluntary workouts in the NFL and how that compares to spiritual disciplines and taking advantage of the opportunities for us to grow, to know God, to become more like him, and to fellowship with other believers and embracing those voluntary efforts. But the benefits and the value is immense and eternal for sure. All right. Well, thanks for listening. We'll be back, Lord willing, next Monday. And in between then, we've got some awesome podcasts launching, interviews that we've done. Luke just mentioned Clay Helton. Highly encourage you to check that out. I think we're releasing that on Tuesday. So that's going to be a fun one for you to hear. He was fantastic. Really strong interview. Andy Lee last week, Lorenzo Romar last week. So be sure to check out the Unpacking It podcast anywhere you find podcasts. And thanks to everybody listening live here today. I'm Bryce. I'm a sports fan who follows Jesus. I believe in the good news that he died on the cross for my sin. He was resurrected. And through faith, I've been saved by his grace. I hope that is true for you as well. And I hope you'll join me as we live life as sports fans who follow Jesus together. Have a great rest of your day. And we will talk to you next time right here on the Unpacking It Live podcast presented by Medi-Share.